Welcome back, everybody, to the TNT podcast. This is Tammy Tola.
And this is your co-host Tree.
So, on this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about the Colombian exchange, and we're going to be discussing about whether it had a positive or negative effect on the world and specific nation as well. So, let's start off. I just want to say that the Colombian exchange was actually beneficial to the world because as we know, it brought like different crops from the new world to the old world, and these crops, such as corn, were very nutritious, which helped the population to survive and thrive. Before I go on in depth about it, I want to let you talk, Tariq.
All right, yes. I just wanted to say, I think you're very ignorant because the Colombian exchange, though, yes, okay, fine, whatever. It made crops go around the world, and everyone was eating. Everyone was eating different foods, and more cultures being spread. The Irish were using potatoes. Cassava was going to places like Africa. But think about it this way: the Europeans who came to the Western Hemisphere enslaved many natives and Africans, and the working conditions were harsh, such as the sugarcane plantations. At the sugarcane plantations, the workers had to deal with very harsh labor. It was so hot because of the way the sugar canes grew. They had to be in like very hot temperatures and areas. That's why it was mainly grown in the Caribbean. And it was just so hot that it made the labor so harsh. And then the people who were in charge of the workers were very aggressive, I guess you could say. And also the machinery and stuff, it was bad, I guess. Like I was reading a document about it, and it wasn't a letter, but it was like a diary entry about how one guy's friend, he got his arm stuck in something that was used to like cut down the canes. And it was like a big car type machine, and it got stuck. And so they had to cut it off with a hatchet. And like, that's not very like, I guess, work environment friendly, I guess you could say. So in my opinion, it wasn't beneficial because though it did allow crops to spread around the world, many people, they were oppressed and hurt. Like, yeah, like the natives, and the Africans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see where you're coming from, especially with like the harsh labor conditions, such as the sugarcane farms in the Caribbean and Potosi, which you didn't mention. But at the same time, that though that is true, you gotta look at it in a broader perspective, not just oh yeah, this specific group is being harmed. And yes, that is tragic that the Native Americans were treated this way, as well as the Africans. You have to look at it in the grand scheme of things. Sure, like some people, like the way I look at it, some people had to die in order for the world to progress, progress and develop technologically and other spice related things like social, political, economic type of thing. Because as you see the
Oh,
Colombian exchange, new technologies were being brought to the world, which again helped the population in Europe as helped the population in Europe greatly. And I want to let you speak real quick because I know you want to say something before I go more in depth about it.
like the first thing is wait, what? Hold on. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Ah, okay. Um, Okay. Yeah. So the first thing I want to point out is that yeah, it's like okay, like 3, 2. So I just want to point out two things of what you just said. The first thing is you sound very evil, kind of when you said that, because like this is the way you worded it. It was just like, oh yeah, some people had to die, so we could grow as a world, so the economies of certain countries could grow. But
Yeah.
like the key idea behind it is that only certain countries were growing. It's not like every single country in the world was thriving from this. People were suffering, and not all countries were not gaining any wealth during this time. And the second thing I want to point out is how you were saying how they grew socially. I guess yes, there were like different social classes that were growing, but these were not entirely good because basically they pushed all like the slaves, like the Africans and the native people. They were pushed all the way down to the bottom of
Yeah, with the
the
caste
social
system,
ladder, and
or
they're
not a caste
basically
system.
treated as like garbage.
Yeah.
And then while the white Europeans who I guess just first settled in these new Western lands, they were at top. But even the mixed people, like that white European man had sexual relations with let's say an African woman. Now came a mixed child. That mixed child was still treated like garbage in most places
Mm-hmm.
just because he had like a drop of African in him. And so yeah, even though I guess yeah, there were more structured social classes, I feel like these social classes were like unfairly like distributed. Like no one was really equal, and it was just like it was more of like if you're not white, you're not good enough in the society. Even if you are half white, it doesn't matter. You're still not good enough.
Well, I think that those type of social issues were already in place before the Colombian Exchange, and I know I was wrong when I said that there was social benefits um, in Europe at the time because yes, there was also problems with that the new developments of the social class. But I also want to say that like since those social classes have been there since like for a long time, this hatred towards like those of darker skin like I feel like that this Colombian exchange, the mixing of a bunch of people together into one space through the Colombian exchange and the connecting the world on a global scale, I think that actually led to people realizing the issues that were going on. And sure, it did take a long time for those issues to be addressed, but I think that sort of acted like as a spark for people to realize there needs to be a change, or at least some sort of like there needs to be some sort of change or different approach to how things are going in the world.
Well, I still feel like it wasn't right. Like I get what you're saying, but even if I just feel like it's just not humane to have like these labor systems such as encomiendas system and like it was I guess oppressive. It was kind of like they just came and stumbled upon your land and they were like, okay, we're gonna use your land to grow our crops and we're gonna pay you little to none to do all the hard work. And then there were like these big monopolies that were happening, such as Britain's sugar monopoly that they had, and they were like distributing that throughout Europe and Asia. And then you also had like distribution of corn that was going to Europe and other resources. And I just feel like um it's just not humanitarianly it's not
Humanitarian.
humane to do what they were doing. Like I feel like it was just morally wrong.
Yeah, all right. So I'm kind of to see a problem with this argument we're going on here because I do see where you're coming from and I do understand, but I think we're never gonna be able to like come with to an agreement or conclusion with this argument because you're like the way we see it is different. Like we see like you see the moral problems with the Colombian exchange, how oh this was horrible to people. But I see it on like the greater scale of things. Like I don't see like the moral problem with it. So like our ideas, like your moral ideas and my economic ideas are clashing. So we'll never really come to a conclusion
Well,
on the and on whether Colombian exchange was good or not.
I mean, like, let's like think about it this way. Just because it has like a greater benefit doesn't mean what's the lesser like issue. Like if the pros overweigh the cons, it doesn't mean like the cons aren't significant enough to be an issue.
Oh,
Like think
yeah,
about
I'm
it
definitely
kind
not
of like
saying
as in
that.
the Viet.
I'm not saying that. Oh yeah, it was perfectly good. I know that there were serious problems, and these problems were not something to be taken lightly. The class divisions, the mistreatment of Native Americans, the like taking over the land without like taking over land, and the whole idea of white supremacy being not white supremacy. That's the wrong term I should be using. Like yeah, basically those points were are serious problems that developed through the Colombian exchange, and they shouldn't be ignored. What I'm trying to say is that the economic the economic results of the Colombian exchange outweigh the moral problem. Because like the way I see it is that the effects of the Colombian exchange, like the positive effects of the Colombian exchange, we still see today, but the negative effects of the Colombian exchange were quarreled like long ago, not long ago, but like in the past as well. That's the way I see it.
Well, I mean, you could connect it kind of to imperialism, such
Mm-hmm.
as let's just take England and India, for example. England imperializing India allowed India to have like a better social class. They
Mm-hmm.
were supposed to get wealthy, and England was actually going to grow as an economy. And this, like, there was like major like economic benefits that happened between India and England. And also India, not India, also England and other countries that they imperialized, like Burma and stuff. Like the benefits of imperialism as a whole was to gain wealth.
Yeah.
Makes more social uh more social standard. I guess that makes it more humane,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you think about it, yeah, like as you would say, like these economic benefits could outweigh the bad stuff. But think about it this way: I am like also a no for imperialism due to the fact that like the people who were imperialized, like the Burmese and the Indians, they were treated like they were less than human, kind of with that new idea of like scientific racism by
Mm-hmm.
saying how like the
Yeah, smaller brains.
white Europeans are like just genetically born
Yeah,
better than
bigger
any other
brains compared
race.
to smaller brains.
Yeah, yeah, and they for and then as a result, the Indians and Burmese were treated like they were basically garbage, and they still weren't even getting any wealth. So yeah, one could argue like, oh yeah, well there were economic benefits, but not in all times. I feel like um, what's humanely right should outweigh anything, rather than how much money you're making.
Mm.
You're like if there was a way for a company to make millions of dollars, and this millions of dollars was going to benefit all of America,
Yeah.
and all they had to do was kill three people, I would say they shouldn't do it because you have to respect the life of a human being, no matter how much money you're going to make from it, no matter how reformed your society is going to be. So yes,
Hmm.
that's my point I want to make. How the Colombian exchange wasn't as it was beneficial, yes, but I feel like it wasn't right. Like it wasn't beneficial. It wasn't the negatives of the Colombian exchange makes it non beneficial, even though it did have its benefits. Is what I'm trying to say. I feel like the Colombian exchange shouldn't be considered as a whole beneficial.
Well, I think it can be considered as benefit. I think the question, like, on your, like, I think the answer to, wait, what was I gonna say? If you ask, was the Colombian exchange was it morally correct? Then obviously you'll say no. But if you would say that Colombian exchange benefited the the world as a whole, then I think you could say yes. Because as a whole, because again, you have to look at it as a whole thing, like a whole out like I don't know how to word it. You have to look at it as I can't word it. But yeah, if you ask the question, was the Colombian exchange morally good? Then I would say no, obviously, because lots of innocent people died working for Europeans that had no respect on their land or their rights. But if you look at it economically, like was the Colombian exchange good for the economy for the world? Not world economy. Was the Colombian exchange good as a whole? Then I think I would say yes. I'll still say yes.
You know, I agree. Like after evaluating the argument and everything, I feel like you're onto something, and you're right. I feel like as a whole, the Colombian exchange is beneficial to all of society by boosting technology around the world and making countries more wealthy, kind of making society how it is today a little bit, like on how now there are like more mixed people. Like people, if you do like an ancestry, you could see, how your bloodline kind of got mixed in, and you have like blood from like other different countries, kind of. And so also how technology spread, which led to like more ideas on how we could become more technologically advanced. Because the more technology we made and perfected, the more we wanted to build more of it and perfect that. So yeah, I guess I agree with you now that the Colombian exchange was all around beneficial.
All right, yeah, and I feel like that's a fair conclusion to make. So unfortunately, we're running out of time for this episode of the TNT podcast. Thank you for tuning in and watching. And yeah, that'll be all for today. Thank you very much for watching.
Bye, guys.